I had a long journey to parenthood, and when it finally happened, I started to have an understanding of why I was made to wait. And one of the things that I will say as a person, and also as a parent, but also as a daughter, one of the most healing things that we can do is to develop curiosity, right? Curiosity really softens resentment. It creates compassion. It it helps us to see complexity. It doesn't necessarily excuse hurt, right? That is not the role of curiosity, but it really helps us to understand. So if your parents are doing things in a way that does not make sense to you or seems very, very foreign to you, before you continue to hold on to that resentment, if you approach them with some curiosity, there really could be something there for you, right? You see your parents seemingly taking care of everybody back home, and yet when they have to do something for you, they are complaining, and that can create a huge amount of resentment in children. Welcome back to Between Two Worlds with Dr. Phoebe. I'm so glad you're here. Really, I truly, truly am. And I appreciate you being here every week, watching, listening, sharing, talking to somebody about the podcast. It has really been wonderful. And I'm truly, truly grateful. And I hope that you'll continue to join the conversation and continue to really think about some of these things that we're talking about, and also sharing ideas with me about things that you want me to talk about on the show. So thank you. I appreciate it. And today we're going to be talking about the questions that many immigrant children have carried for years, and questions that we've wondered about, questions that we've been afraid to ask, questions that might help us understand our parents and our elders in a completely different way, you know? As children, we often see our parents as parents. That's it. We don't think about who they were before us, before the marriage, before the immigration, the responsibility, before survival mode, right? And the reality is that every parent has a story. And many of our immigrant parents have stories that are filled with extraordinary courage, right? Our parents are people. And for me, I am the oldest of three. I'm the only daughter. And when I started looking at my parents as human beings, I swear something just shifted, right? Something shifted where I started to see my parents wholly. Like, this is a whole person who came into this parenting or parenthood journey and probably had no clue what they were doing, right? And some of these questions that we could be asking our parents and talking to them about is something like, what did your childhood look like? I know that we hear the little stories, the little snippets here and there. "Hey, I used to walk to school a lot. I used to do this. I used to do that." And you people have it easy. We didn't have it easy back then. Back then. Back then. Back then. But the question of what your childhood was like gives us a window into what our parents were dealing with, probably when they were our ages, or when they were younger, when they were kids, right? What did you dream about becoming when you were a child? Asking a question like, who was your first love? Now, that one might be a little tricky because they might not want to talk about it, because guess what? That first love might not have been your mama. I'm just saying. So tread very carefully with that question, okay? But even asking a question like, were you scared when you immigrated? Did you ever regret it when you left home? What did you leave behind? What do you miss the most about home? What were you hoping that your life would would become? What do you dream for yourself? These are really important questions. These questions really, really matter, because one day we we realize something profound. And I realized it some time back that my parents were people before they became parents. That I was a person before I became a parent. I had a long journey to parenthood, and when it finally happened, I started to have an understanding of why I was made to wait. And one of the things that I will say as a person, and also as a parent, but also as a daughter, one of the most healing things that we can do is to develop curiosity, right? Curiosity really softens resentment. It creates compassion. It it helps us to see complexity. It doesn't necessarily excuse hurt, right? That is not the role of curiosity, but it really helps us to understand. So if your parents are doing things in a way that does not make sense to you or seems very, very foreign to you, before you continue to hold on to that resentment, if you approach them with some curiosity, there really could be something there for you, right? You see your parents seemingly taking care of everybody back home, and yet when they have to do something for you, they're complaining. And that can create a huge amount of resentment in children. I'm not gonna lie. It creates a lot of resentment. And I've seen that happen so many times. And if we were to be able to approach our parents, one of my favorite sayings is curiosity over judgment. If we were to approach them with curiosity about, Dad, I see that you send, money home to my cousins, and I've also noticed that when I ask for some of the same things, you don't seem too pleased to do that. It's a hard conversation. It's a hard question because your dad might get defensive, right? And at the same time, it will give you a window into your father's soul to understand why he's doing the things that he's doing. Because guess what? A lot of our parents are people pleasers and they don't even realize it. A lot of us are people pleasers and we don't realize it because we want to be loved. We want to be seen, we want to be valued, we want people to like us, right? And at the same time, many of our immigrant parents really carry some grief that they never talk about. There's the losses that they never processed, the dreams that they never got to pursue, the fears that they never shared, right? Imagine carrying that for decades. Imagine holding on to the fact that you were a banker or a successful professional back in your home country and you came into this country and now you don't hold that status anymore. Now you have to depend on your child to explain things to you. Now you have to start all over again, right? You may have been the boss or the chief or whoever, like whoever is in power, right? You had a lot of power when you were in your home country, and you come or you immigrate to a new country. You come back, you come over here to the US, and you have to go back. If you were at a level 3, you're starting at like a level 0 or at level -0 or -3 or whatever. -0 doesn't exist. Let me make sure I correct myself before my child hears this and comes to correct me. Mommy, there's no -0. But you you have these parents or these adults who have had to like make career pivots, right? Or they thought that by their age, by 50, by 60, they would own their own home and maybe would have paid it off or wouldn't have a mortgage, but here they are. And our parents also carry a lot of fear, a lot of fear about, not succeeding or disappointing people back home, or not being able to show that they were worthy of their community coming together to bring them overseas or to contribute to their trip or their immigration process, right? And truthfully, some of the most meaningful conversations that I've had with our elders or with my elders, um, it's really started with a curiosity, like a question. Tell me about your life, right? Tell me about yourself before I existed. Now, maybe you don't have to like ask it as directly, but and I've been known to be direct, right? Sometimes I ask some really direct questions and people are like, Phoebe, did you really ask that? Yes, I did. The way the brain is braining sometimes, I just like, I don't know how else to say it. We have a saying, and I probably overuse the saying, but If the face of the drum is over there and is available, why would I beat on the side? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna come straight. I'm gonna come direct. So yeah, maybe not as direct, but like having that curiosity, right? The bottom line here is curiosity. Having the questions around who your parents were before you existed, before you came along. It just opens so many doors, and as we seek to bridge the gap between these two generations that we find ourselves in, the parent generation and the child generation, it's going to be really, really important that we ask these questions and that we're also open to hearing those answers, because you can't ask a question and then like walk away and not want to hear the answer. Then what's the point of you asking the question? Like, come on. So here's a bridge the gap challenge that I have for you this week. I want you to ask one family history question. Just one. Just one, right? You might discover stories that change the way that you see your family forever. I'm telling you, you might learn some things. And I'm so careful when I'm on here because, like, I don't want to be sharing too many family secrets or, put people's business on blast and all that stuff, because I'm a professional secret keeper, right? As a therapist, and I think sometimes this is one of the ways in which it seeps into my private life, because I end up holding a lot of secrets for the family as well. And I mean, not like bad or good or whatever, just secrets, just holding on to stories, right? And so every now and then, I'll think about some of the different things that I've heard over the years. And one of the most powerful conversations that I've had with my mother was I was pregnant with my oldest, and I was trying to walk that baby out. Okay. I was trying to walk him out. He didn't budge that day, but we were walking at the park, and because somebody had told me that if you did a whole lot of walking, that it would help move labor and all that stuff. And I just got a crash course on my mom's entire history, my whole family history. And I think that was one of the conversations that changed the way that I looked at my mom, the way that I conceptualized my family, just in the and it was such a casual conversation. And I remember we're just walking and we're laughing, and we're just she's telling me all these stories, and I'm asking questions. And I think that we as adults, we've lost the art of asking questions because we think that asking questions is childish. And some of us have been in situations where asking questions maybe got us into trouble. And people get defensive when you ask questions because maybe they might feel like you're challenging them or something like that. But it's not that. Sometimes we're just curious. We really just want to know. So when your child is asking you, like, tell me a little bit about your life, tell me a little bit about your childhood, you have an opportunity to really connect with them. And maybe your child doesn't even know that they can ask you that question. Maybe you ask that question. Hey, would you like to know about my childhood? Hey, would you like to know about my life in Cote d'Ivoire? Would you like to know about how school was when I was in Nigeria? Would you like to hear about, my friends when I was growing up? Every family has stories. You know what I'm saying? Every family has stories. Every person has a story. And some are spoken, some are hidden, and someone somewhere, right, might need to ask some of those questions, right? Some of those things, some of those histories are waiting for somebody brave enough to ask that question. Maybe that someone is you. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll be back with some more.